Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. Being in the health and wellness world, I have tried or have been sent so many different things over the years. Different supplements, different products, different devices, tech stuff. In this episode, I'm going to share my favorite biohacking tool. I don't love that word, but this kind of people know what I'm talking about when I say that. Just a wellness device if you prefer that alternative. So my favorite biohacking tool, because I really want to get into why I love it so much, if I recommend the benefits, etc. I don't want to leave you waiting too much longer. So my favorite biohacking tool, I'm not sure if you can already guess it. I'll give you a moment. You've probably heard me talk about it before. It is, drum roll, my Oura ring. This has helped me in so many ways. And some crazy things that it's helped me discover are my mold toxicity. It's also showed me which diet and supplements have worked versus not, how best to exercise, when to push harder versus take it easy. It helps us track my cycle. It confirms ovulation. It shows when I'm going to get my period, when I'm going to get sick, so much. And I've only had one small issue with it, which I will definitely share more about later. But I want you to know all the different benefits, because for the first few months I didn't really know like how much it could provide, and they have added extra things over the years to make it even better. But there are other wearables, just as a heads up, on the market, things like Whoop and Apple Watches, but I just think the Oura Ring design is much more desirable. Like I'm showing it on video now, the ring version, I love it. I have the graphite version, I'm pretty sure it's called, or charcoal. It's just like a dark metallic-y look, because I didn't want a silver one in case I wore gold jewelry. I'm not really into the mix and matching. I know it's can be trendy, but I just prefer this dark one. I feel like it looks pretty nice. And I've had mine since, I think, when they launched, it was around 2018. So I had like the first generation as soon as they were available. February 2018, that's when I first ordered. And I'm sure that I heard it initially from a lecturer at college. So he would talk about, he was very into like fitness and things, and I think he'd been sent one or he had one, and I was like, I have to have one. And maybe back then it was a bit more basic, just with the sleep. It's mainly for sleep, but it does so much more now, and they've added to it, and they will, I think, continually just keep updating it. But I just did research about OURA, and I just trusted them more. I believe that they're much lower with EMF than other things like Apple Watches. And yeah, I have so many positive things to say. And the first time I had it, it lasted just over 2 years. And then it honestly just stopped syncing. Like I would try to pair them up. So how to do that is you put on Bluetooth, it connects them, and then you can turn the Bluetooth right off, which is good. It doesn't have to be on all the time, if that was a concern for you. And I contacted them, and it was just outside of the 2-year warranty. So I had to order another, but they give me a nice discount, which was good. And I think I went about a year without one, and I thought I'd see how it goes. And you do get to know your body after a while, and you can start to see similar trends. And I'd done a few experiments to see what was working, but I missed it that much that in 2021 I ordered another one. And I have the 3rd generation now, but opted out of the membership. So I personally don't have the membership. I do still think it's optional. I'm not sure, because it's been a couple of years since I signed up. But I personally don't feel like I needed that extra information. I feel like what I already have access to is great. But within the membership, you can get things like extra education and teachings and meditations and more personalized recommendations. So maybe if you're wanting to learn more about health and you're a little bit newer, then it could be good for you. But at the moment, I think the offer, and this is like time sensitive, so I have spoken to OURA recently, and I think that when you get the OURA ring, you do get 1 month free, and then it is per month around $5 to like $6 to $7 or pounds a month. So it's definitely less than £10 and dollars a month, but I don't know the exact price, and it might have changed. But just know that you can buy the ring and just use the basic information like I do, and it's still not that basic. Or you can get the extra membership, you could just try it for the first month and see, or give it a few months, then you can always cancel. And OURA don't sell on their website the lower generation rings anymore, but I do believe you can buy pre-used ones online on like Amazon, eBay. I don't know anyone who's done that, so I can't comment whether that's a good idea or not, but I have heard it is an option. And I do have a link in the show notes today, a link in my Instagram bio for the OURA ring. And this episode isn't sponsored or anything. I don't get paid for this episode, but I do earn a small commission from your purchases at no extra cost to you. So if you're wanting to support me in the show and you find benefit from this episode and end up wanting to go ahead, I would be really grateful if you could use the link, just so OURA know that I sent you. And yeah, I do get a little bit of a kickback from that. And I am completely honest with my reviews, and I don't share products that I honestly don't personally use and love. And hopefully you know that about me now. A really helpful thing that I realized is that they send a free sizing kit. So if you don't know your ring size, then they send out this little kit and you can try them on. And the finger that I have it on is my middle finger. I think they say not to wear it on your index or your like wedding ring finger. I'm not sure if it's a difference with the blood flow. I don't think it would be that great on the little finger. So I personally think the middle finger is good, but just double check. That's just what I remember, but I could be completely wrong. And depending on where you're at, I personally got charged, and I know other clients have custom fees because they are being shipped from the US, I'm sure. But it depends on what country you're in, and it wasn't that much. I'm pretty sure it was less than £50, and I just think it's honestly worth it. But I just don't want you might not get an invoice at all, an extra fee, but I don't want you to be shocked if you get an extra customs invoice through the door a few weeks later. So the benefits, so many of them. Where do I start? So the first one I've already touched on is the fact that it's low EMF, electromagnetic frequencies and fields. I'm online all day, every day as it is. So I really don't want extra exposure to these harmful radiation rays whenever possible. So that's why at the gym, I will use my wireless ones for ease and so that I can work out in a more enjoyable way. But the rest of the day, when I'm on my client calls, I'm using my wired headphones because I'm not going to be sat for another 8 hours with my AirPods or my wireless headphones in. It's the same with the OURA ring. There is going to be a small amount of EMF radiation coming from it, but compared to Apple, I don't know who's done experiments, but even the infrared saunas that I use, I choose companies that have tested and tracked and have shown to be lower EMF than other ones who maybe are cheaper, but they don't really care and they don't really like protect you against extra harmful radiation. So it still tracks even on airplane mode. So I just keep mine on regular. I don't put it on airplane mode, but you can actually wear it on airplane mode. You would just need to turn that off and turn the Bluetooth on to sync up the data. The OURA ring also looks at your HRV, which some other tools and devices don't. HRV is heart rate variability, which is such a good marker to look at your recovery and the health of your nervous system. It's a recovery marker, and with this one, it's the higher the better. So the higher the number is, and optimal, if we're going for like, I want to feel amazing and I want to know that my health is doing so good, I would say between 80 to 100 or higher. Some of my clients, it's literally like a 13 when we start working together, and then it does take time. And some people are maybe just genetically lower than others, even when they're feeling really good, but you should see that creeping up over time. So it's a really good tool to use on your health journey to see the progress over time, because day to day you might not see any results, but then as you look back over last year's scores, you can see that your HRV is like double than what it was. And you can also go back and look at your trends in other things. So you can make notes on your menstrual cycle. You can look at how your exercise habits have changed over the months and over the years. You can see trends. So it might say that recently you've not been sleeping better, and that is so motivating, especially to someone like myself. I need that information reflected back to me, because I probably know that there's times that I'm not as into my stress management or my sleep routine. But when something notifies me and tells me, I feel like I'm a naughty school kid. I'm like, okay, I'm sorry, I'll get back onto it. And then it'll just show you maybe the times that you're doing really well. So on your health journey, things can get really overwhelming, and sometimes you forget that a few months ago you did really well and you don't really know why, but then you look back and maybe you were really prioritizing your sleep, going to bed earlier. You can look back over your menstrual cycle if you track that on there, and you can even log like other extra symptoms, so you can see what was going on and use it as a little diary at the same time on the app. I forgot to say everything's kind of synced to an app, so it makes it really user-friendly, and it does integrate with over 40 other apps, including Natural Cycles, Apple Health, Peloton, Strava, a ton of others. I don't think I integrate it with any others. And there is a useful blog on linked to the app or the website with helpful guides and education, because there were some markers that I wasn't really sure what it meant. So there's always like a little help option, information button, and you can learn very like in detail what it is and how you can improve it or decrease, increase, whatever is going on. And I know that some people could feel triggered with this type of information, or it could cause stress in the body. So it really depends on the person. If you feel like you have a history of orthorexia or eating disorders or overtraining or anything like that, it might not be the best fit for you, but it could also support you if you're seeing that your body is doing better with certain things and you feel like you're a bit more in control. Then that's what I'm saying. Not for everyone, but I personally don't get triggered by it, and it helps me. And a few years ago, I had a chat with a practitioner friend because I was still dealing with some nervous system and histamine symptoms. And she was saying, maybe you should stop tracking things for a while, because I was doing tests, I was tracking. And she said, just to like reduce control, trust your body more. And I did reduce the amount of lab tests that I was doing on myself. So I've taken some of that advice, but I do feel like the OURA ring helps me to understand my body more. And I'm not doing it out of a place of what can I cut out or what can I change or what's wrong with me. I'm doing it from a place of self-love. Like, how can I support my body in the best way possible? So it depends on the person and perhaps where they're at in their health journey. So some of the things that I pay attention to most, because there is a lot of information and some people have it more for the activity side of things, some people have it more for the stress or the sleep. So the things that I am personally looking at heavily are the sleep. My aim, for me personally, and these are just my optimal scores, so if you're nowhere near this, but you're also at the start of your health journey, please don't compare yourself. But I aim to get a high 80/90 sleep score every night. The OURA ring has allowed me to find my ideal bedtime, my ideal evening routine, and this is based on a lot of trial and error. I have done this for other things like my skin before, but I have so many notes in my notes app where it's like a little tally chart. So with my skin, I was like, the times that my skin was really good versus the time that my skin was breaking out a ton, I would make a note of what was going on in all areas. My skincare, what was I using exactly on both times? What was I eating? What are my daily supplements? Have I done anything new? What was my sleep like? How was I exercising? Was I eating chocolate? Was I drinking caffeine? Just really deep dive. And then every time it was either extreme of very clear or very broken out, I would put a tally against the same things that I noticed. I also did that with my sleep too. And everyone is different. There are general things that can help, like having an evening routine, making sure that you aren't on devices. That's like general for everyone. But for me, I really notice random things like having a warm cup of tea in the evening really helps me. Even if it's a cup of tea, like a regular breakfast tea with some caffeine in there. For some reason, maybe it's the warm drink or just because I love tea anyway, and that really helps my body to relax and get good sleep scores. So I realized that over several months of data collection and being able to see what has the biggest impact on me, because some things didn't really make a huge difference and maybe took extra time and I didn't really enjoy doing them as much. So with those things, you can put on the back burner and try some of the other things and see what moves the needle the most for yourself. With my sleep, I mentioned at the start that the OURA ring helped me to detect mold. I did have to do further testing in my body, but it was the fact that for years I had constant low REM sleep. REM. So this is the rapid eye movement stage of sleep. And there were some nights that I would sleep for 8+ hours, sometimes 12 hours, but it was always a stubbornly low REM sleep score. And that really confused me, and I did a little bit more research, and there was maybe some article or someone talking about how mold can affect your sleep. So even though I didn't have chronic insomnia, I still had imbalances with my sleep because I wasn't dreaming. I would wake up and I'd still be tired the next day, and I wasn't healing, obviously, because I wasn't getting the restoration and the detox that happens at night. And then I did some experimentations, and I couldn't move at the time. It's not like I could just up and leave, but I was planning on moving anyway, because this was my family home and I was moving into my first apartment. And I had to stay there for another 6 months after finding out that it definitely was mold after testing my body. But in the meantime, I experimented with turning off my Wi-Fi at night because I heard that that could be connected. That can actually proliferate mold. Another reason to avoid EMFs and Bluetooth and all of that. It triggers and angers the mold and makes it even worse. So I did an experiment where for a week I would turn off the Wi-Fi, and the improvement, I think either my REM sleep normalized during that time or it massively improved, as did my deep sleep, which wasn't as big of a problem, but it still improved when I did that. So this is just a top tip. Even if you're not living in mold or don't suspect you are, please do that every night, because it's just going to improve everything, and you shouldn't really be needing Wi-Fi in the night anyway. So just turn it back on in the morning, and that can just help your body to really have a break from some of these environmental toxins. And some clients that I know have identified that they have mold or sleep apnea through the low oxygen level testing. So it tests your oxygen as well. And they had constant low levels. And then we did a bit of investigation, and yeah, either they had mold toxicity or sleep apnea, and that was affecting their breathing rate, the respiratory system, and more. So really crazy stuff. I also noticed in the past when I was reacting negatively to certain supplements and food. So when I had certain supplements or food, and at one point it was citric acid in my supplements, because that can be linked to mold. So when you are when you're dealing with mold toxicity, you just become more sensitive in general. You can develop more food intolerances, but some citric acid ingredients are derived from mold, and it can just contribute to like a histamine and mast cell response. So on those days that I'd eat something too close to bedtime, or it was a food that I was sensitive to, like a histamine rich food, or a supplement containing some sort of herb or alcohol that was high in histamine, my heart rate would stay elevated and it wouldn't go down in the night. It should drop at night, and it would raise a flag. It would give me like a little notification that I wasn't recovering as well. This also still happens with stress now, getting too hot at night. I had a bath the other night and it was a bit too hot because I had like a big Epsom salt bath and stayed in there a little bit too long close to bedtime, and I was just so restless all night. So actually being a little bit cooler is more beneficial for quality sleep. And when I would eat, I realized eating too close to bedtime would also affect my sleep scores. For some people, it can do the complete opposite, and it could help them sleep like a baby. And I experimented with that for a while because I was waking in the night to urinate, and I knew that it could be blood sugar related. And at the time, it's like everyone online was like, have a bedtime snack, have a pint of ice cream before bed. And I didn't have that. I had like maybe some nuts and something else, something protein rich. But for me, it would actually make my sleep worse. And my waking in the night was actually due to more histamine and mast cell related things. So it wasn't my blood sugar at all. My blood sugar was completely fine. And just finishing my last meal about 3 hours before bed. So I go to bed at 10, finish eating 6:30, 7 at the latest, was actually okay for me. So it just shows there's no blanket statements where everyone needs to be doing this, because I have a lot of the time been the anomaly to that. And it was really interesting for me to see the time in bed result versus actual sleep time. There can be a huge difference with that. A lot of people think because they're going to bed at 10, waking up at 6, they tell me, my clients, that I have 8 hours sleep. But it's really unlikely that you do, because by the time you've fallen asleep, and many of us wake up multiple times in the night unknowingly, and then in the early hours, you might be tossing and turning. So I have been in bed, and even now, like regularly, if I'm in bed 9.5 hours, I'm only sleeping 7.5 of those hours. And ideally, we want minimum 7 hours of actual sleep. I know that we're told that we want 8 hours sleep, but I feel like people are talking about time in bed. So I think 7 hours actual sleep, and you want to track this with something like an OURA ring. And if that means being in bed, just based on where you're at the moment, for 12 hours, for you to get 7 hours sleep, if that's doable, I would recommend doing so. The restfulness score is also useful. Back when I was in mold, it was very restful and I was waking up unknowingly multiple times. I thought I slept fine, but the OURA ring told me otherwise. The rapid eye movement result now is really helpful to track because it's no longer chronically low like it was. Ideally, we want around 1.5 hours minimum every night, and this makes up between 5 and 50% of our sleep. It's important for dreaming, memory consolidation, and it's the rapid eye movement, as I mentioned before. So previously, I didn't dream at all, or I didn't think I did. And I realized I had a B6 deficiency, and the mold toxicity was the biggest thing for me. And now I dream, and I don't always remember it, but I know I'm dreaming, and that's a really good sign of health, unless it's nightmares and literally the whole night you're dreaming these intense, vivid dreams. That can be a sign of parasites, and sometimes mold. It can go the other way. Either you don't dream at all, or you have these crazy nightmares. And then the deep sleep score is also something that I look at. Ideally with this one, we want 1 to 1.5 hours again each night. This is the restoration, healing, and detox time. So I always make sure that I'm getting, I do pretty good with these and always get a minimum of 1 to 1.5 hours every night. So I very closely look at my sleep scores and always want to see 80 to high 90s. I think the highest I've ever got is like a 98 with my sleep. I'm still working towards getting 100. That will be my life goal achieved. Then with activity, this is something else that I look at every day. I aim to get around 10,000 steps daily, which it shows, and it does show your estimated calorie burn based on your height, your activity, your weight. And this can be helpful if you are wanting to gain or lose weight on your health journey. And it helps me to tweak my workouts based on my recovery scores and my readiness scores. There are some days that I think I need to rest because I'm near my period, or I don't think I slept well, but it actually shows that I am able to, and I can push myself and be able to tolerate it. So it's probably just me being lazy that day versus other times that I think I'm okay, but maybe my sleep quality wasn't as good as I thought it was, or I'm starting to get sick and I don't have symptoms just yet, but if I was to work out on that day, it could actually tip me over the edge. So I want to instead have a rest day or take it a lot easier. So it's just so cool. You can also record a workout HR, heart rate level, but at the moment, I'm not sure if it's different with the membership, but I can only see it for running, walking, and cycling, not strength training sessions, where I haven't used that personally because I don't do running, walking, running or cycling. I've not tracked it yet for walking, but maybe I'll see. I don't feel like my heart rate changes that much with the type of walking that I do though. HRV, I mentioned this earlier, but this is one of the main things that I track, pay attention to. The higher, the better. And this represents the space between your heartbeats. The lower the number, the more dysregulated your nervous system is going to be. My personal ideal is above 100. The more, this can make you more stress resilient, so more resilient against stress. And it can be pretty bio-individual, because there's some practitioner friends that I know and their normal is like a 60. I think it is affected by age, trauma, physical health, but my normal has always been above 100, which is my big flex. There's yeah, it shows like a max heart rate, but then you get an average HRV, so I'd love to see it around that level, and that works for my body. And then stress, I think this is a pretty new feature, but it's the daytime stress result, which honestly, every day it says that I'm pretty much stressed all the time, even when I'm not. So I'm a little bit confused, and I've heard a few other people say the same. And it says in the report that that's pretty normal for us to be. And when it says stress, it means just like you're engaged or working, which technically I am. Either I'm like out for a walk, at the gym, or working throughout the daytime. So maybe it is right that it's stress, but I don't like the wording because it's a little bit discouraging when it's like you're stressed, but then it goes into like extreme stress mode when you actually are. But maybe it's just when your brain's on and it's working, but I prefer to say engaged or active or something like that instead of you're stressed 24/7, because yeah, I don't look at that as much. I just check in every now and again to see what's going on. So that's one of the features that I'm not a huge fan of. And then there's one other small issue which I'll cover in a second. But the very last thing that I look at with the Oura Ring is the cycle tracking. I don't think it's as specific as a fertility monitor, like Natural Cycles, Daisy, or OvuSense. So if you are currently trying to conceive and really need to be mindful of your temperature or your ovulation dates, all of that, I wouldn't rely on Oura as much. But at the point now, I'm pretty much confident with cycle tracking, with checking my cervical mucus and dates pretty much line up. I know we can't rely on that 100%, but that combined with the Oura scores, I can see pretty clearly like what's going on. But if someone's like trying to conceive, then maybe you do need something additional, whether it's just a regular temperature or one of those special fertility monitors that I mentioned. So you can get a period prediction date, which can be useful just as a reminder, like your period's coming up soon and your body temperature should be elevating in the second half of your cycle. And I think that that affects your readiness scores a little bit, because I don't think it knows whether you're getting sick or you're inflamed or whether you are just like producing progesterone. So it does knock some of your results down a little bit, but that could make sense because technically you are a little bit more sensitive to stress in the second half of your cycle. And it will tell you sometimes what's going on with your hormones and the fluctuations during times of the month. So it'll say like, this is going on in like your energy because you're in your follicular phase. And I look at my temperature specifically, and we want to see an elevation, as I said, post ovulation. So after ovulation, we should get a spike, and that does reflect your progesterone robustness and your metabolism and all of that. So if you chronically see low levels, or you're having a cycle but you're not seeing elevations, and it can be like +1 to +7 sometimes. If you're having chronically low temperatures, it might indicate deeper problems with your thyroid or your metabolism that need resolving. So I've had clients, we've managed to like pick up thyroid stress based on an Oura Ring, and then we do specific thyroid testing because it's not enough on its own to see for definite, and then we do see that there's something going on, and then we use the Oura Ring to see that our treatment is working. So they'll start to see the temperature rising, and then maybe we do a retest in a few months and confirm that with some blood work. And you can log your period dates, your symptoms. So it's kind of like an all-in-one app for me, something that I refer back to every morning. But the one small issue is, I don't know if it's my ring, but I feel like it happened in the other one. Some days it doesn't sync up. So I wake up in the morning, and it's usually on the days that I want to see my data the most, because I feel like, oh, that was a really good sleep. Let me see if I've reached 100 score yet. Or I don't know if I slept well. Let me see what's going on. Maybe I tried something new the night before, a sleep supplement, and I wanted to see the results. Usually on those days, it's typical that it doesn't sync up. So I turn on my Bluetooth, I turn on my ring, I go onto the app, and then it just says like not connected. And that's pretty frustrating. It doesn't happen. I'd say like once a week that'll happen. And technically the battery life, it says, is up to 7 days, but I'm pretty sure I charge mine every like 4 days. I don't know if I'm on it a little bit more than the average person, but just, yeah, maybe bear that in mind. And some nights, if I don't charge it in the day and it's running out of battery, sometimes in the middle of the night it runs out of charge, and then it doesn't sync up as well. So overall, two very small critiques with the Oura Ring, but I would in general highly recommend getting one if you feel like you would be a good candidate and you're interested in tracking some of these things for your health. Let me know on Instagram if you love your Oura Ring or you end up getting one. I would love to see that. Tag me in a post if you love this episode. I'm at Viva Natural Health on Instagram. And let me know if you wanted to do little reviews of other products, because like I said, I've tried a few things that I really don't like that are quite common, a few things that I absolutely love. So let me know and I will record whatever episode you're wanting from 2024. I'm loving these solo episodes. I hope you are as well. And I'm wishing you an amazing rest of your day, whatever you're up to. See you back here next week for another episode.
I really hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, I would love for you to leave me a rating and review on your podcast app, as this helps to support the show and it allows it to reach more people with this valuable information. Come and say hi over on Instagram. I'm at Viva Natural Health. And if you haven't already, check out my website, vivanaturalhealth.co.uk, for tons more free resources and to discover how I could support you further. I currently offer one-on-one consultation packages if you want my top level support, then more affordable group programs and self-paced online courses. So there really is something for everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you back here next week for another episode.